Earlier this month, Saudi Arabia and several other major oil producers announced they would cut oil production by 1.15 million barrels a day, starting in May, and continuing through the end of 2023. According to the Saudi Energy Ministry, the move was coordinated with some members of the Organization of the Petroleum Exporting Countries, OPEC, and non-OPEC members as a precautionary measure to stabilize the oil market. Oil production cuts come amid shifting alliances and tensions among major players. Saudi Arabia, Russia, the United Arab Emirates, Iraq, Kuwait, Oman, and Algeria plan to reduce oil production by a total of 1.15 million barrels per day this weekend. Saudi Arabia and Russia announced that each country would decrease oil production by 500,000 barrels per day, while the UAE will cut 144,000 barrels per day and Kuwait will reduce production by 128,000 barrels per day. Higher oil prices would help fill Russian President Vladimir Putin's coffers as his country wages war on Ukraine and force Americans and others to pay even more at the pump amid worldwide inflation. The production cuts alone could push U.S. gasoline prices up by around 26 cents per gallon. In addition to the usual increase that comes when refineries change the gasoline blend during the summer driving season, said Kevin Book, managing director of Clearview Energy Partners LLC. Based on the Energy Department's calculations, the seasonal increase is averaged at 32 cents per gallon. According to AAA, United States gasoline is currently selling for about $3.50 a gallon, so during the summer, the price could reach $4 a gallon. However, Book said there are a number of complex variables in oil and gas prices. The size of each country's production cut depends on the baseline production number it is using. So the cut might not be 1.15 million. It could also take much of the year for the cuts to take effect. Demand could fall if the US enters a recession caused by the banking crisis. But it also could increase during the summer as more people travel. Even though the production cut is only about one of the roughly 100 million barrels of oil the world uses per day, the impact on prices could be big, Book said. It's a big deal because of the way oil prices work, he said. You are in a market that is relatively balanced. You take a small amount away, and depending on what demand does, you could have a very significant price response. Saudi Arabia announced the biggest cut among OPEC members at 500,000 barrels per day. The cuts are in addition to a reduction announced last October that infuriated the Biden administration. The Saudi Energy Ministry described the move as a precautionary measure aimed at stabilizing the oil market. The cuts represent less than 5% of Saudi Arabia's average production of 1.15 million barrels per day in 2022. Iraq said it would reduce production by 211,000 barrels per day, the United Arab Emirates by 144,000, Kuwait by 128,000, Kazakhstan by 78,000, Algeria by 48,000, and Oman by 40,000. The announcements were carried by each country's state media. Russia's Deputy Prime Minister Alexander Novak, meanwhile, said Moscow would extend a voluntary cut of 500,000 until the end of the year, according to remarks carried by the state news agency TASS. Russia had announced the unilateral reduction in February after Western countries imposed price caps. All are members of the so-called OPEC Plus group of oil exporting countries, which includes the original organization of the petroleum exporting countries as well as Russia and other major producers. There was no immediate statement from OPEC itself. The cuts announced in October of some 2 million barrels a day had come on the eve of the US midterm elections, in which soaring prices were a major issue. President Joe Biden vowed at the time that there would be consequences, and Democratic lawmakers called for freezing cooperation with the Saudis. Both the US and Saudi Arabia denied any political motives in the dispute. Since those cuts, oil prices have trended down. Brent crude, a global benchmark, was trading around $80 a barrel at the end of last week, down from around $95 in early October, when the earlier cuts were agreed. Analysts Giacomo Romeo and Lloyd Byrne at Jefferies said in a research note that the new cuts should allow for material reductions to OPEC's inventory. earlier than expected and could validate recent warnings from some traders and analysts that demand for oil is weakening. Christian Coates Ulrichsen, a Gulf expert at Rice University's Baker Institute for Public Policy, said, "The Saudis are determined to keep oil prices high enough to fund ambitious megaprojects linked to Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030 plan to overhaul the economy. This domestic interest takes precedence in Saudi decision-making over relationships with international partners and is likely to remain a point of friction in U.S.-Saudi relations for the foreseeable future," he said. Saudi Arabia's state-run oil giant Aramco recently announced record profits of $161 billion from last year. Profits rose 46.5% when compared to the company's 2021 results of $110 billion. Aramco said it hoped to boost production to 13 million barrels a day by 2027. The decades-long U.S.-Saudi alliance has come under growing strain in recent years. Following the 2018 killing of Saudi dissident Jamal Khashoggi, a U.S.-based journalist, and Saudi Arabia's war with the Iran-backed Houthi rebels in Yemen. As a candidate for president, Biden had vowed to make Saudi Arabia a pariah over the Khashoggi killing, but as oil prices rose after his inauguration, he backed off. He visited the kingdom last July in a bid to patch up relations, drawing criticism for sharing a fist bump with Crown Prince Mohammed. Saudi Arabia has denied siding with Russia in the Ukraine war, even as it has cultivated closer ties with both Moscow and Beijing in recent years. Last week, Aramco announced billions of dollars of investment in China's downstream petrochemicals industry. The announcement of the oil superpower's decision to cut supply follows the reductions made in October, when oil-producing nations announced a decrease in production of 2 million BPD. At the time, the Biden administration expressed its anger and warned of consequences. On Sunday, the White House responded to the surprise cuts, and a spokesperson for Biden's National Security Council said the United States does not believe that reducing production is advisable. The spokesperson also stated that Biden's administration would continue to collaborate with oil producers to maintain low prices at the pump for American gas consumers. This news follows several reports over the last week indicating that several large nations are shifting away from U.S. dollar settlements. According to Alexander Babakov, the deputy chairman of the State Duma, the BRICS countries, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa, plan to discuss the creation of a new reserve currency for the group of countries. In addition, China recently struck a bilateral deal with Brazil that enables trade in their respective national currencies to purchase liquefied natural gas long. Furthermore, with China's rapid growth, the BRICS bloc is now the world's largest gross domestic product GDP group. Saudi Arabia and other major oil producers believe that the reduction in production will help stabilize the oil market and is being implemented as a precautionary measure. According to Riyadh's energy agency, data indicates that despite the oil production cut in October, prices of Brent crude and other measures of oil per barrel have decreased from $95 per barrel to $80. Last October, Democrat policymakers wanted to cut ties with Saudi Arabia, remove troops from the region, and end arms sales. What are your thoughts on the implications of the oil production cuts by Saudi Arabia and other major oil producers? Do you believe it will have a significant impact on global oil prices and the economy? Share your thoughts about this in the comments section below. Thanks for watching our video. We hope you found it helpful and informative. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and consider subscribing to our channel for more content like this. And don't forget to hit the notification bell to be notified when we upload new videos. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.